everybody. Yes, I'm using the mic again because I hate the earbuds. My name is Debbie. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to stick it right next to my mouth and talk loudly because I hate the earbuds. Why does StreamYard say there's only 2 people in here? Because I count 0 degrees? 0 degree. I'm backwards. Hang on. I didn't know it got that cold in America. Hey, Teresia. Hey, Marty. Hey, Judy. Hey, Jen. We are on part 4 of the Robert Bardo trial. Unalived actress Rebecca Schaeffer in the 80s, late 80s. The trial is 91, I think. Warner Brothers had a policy that executives and actors were to be notified about uninvited advances toward them. Security later admitted that because Bardo had made very little fuss about the denied access and left when ordered, the encounter was considered too trivial to report to Schaeffer. Well, don't they have egg on their face now? Okay, so I noticed real temp, not real feel. Well, what's the real feel? The real feel for Debbie would be in the house with the heat on. So later in the trial, I don't know when we're going to get to it, but we're going to see Dr. Park Dietz again. And I know we've seen him, but I can't remember from where. And Judy says she thinks it was from the Spectre trial. I recognize the face, not the name. You'll recognize him when you see him if you don't recognize the name. -5? Yeah, Debbie's inside. If it's a -5, I'm inside. I don't think I've ever been in weather that cold. I mean, it gets in the 30s and I'm inside. Yeah, that's why I remembered the face. I remembered he was annoying, but I didn't remember the name. I should have, because Parks is a strange first name. Why? You don't get snow days like school kids do?
Let's place this on the record. I have seen this tape in chambers, and it would appear to me that the only thing that is relevant is the footage that has to do with Mr. Bardo. I will look at the whole thing, but if there's anything else either side wishes me to consider, other than the appearance and the actions of Mr. Bardo, you should inform me ahead of time so that I can look carefully at it, because there's a lot of extraneous matter, including some legal arguments in the preliminary hearing court, etc. Okay?
That's fine.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, we would now call Mr. Jim Weeder.
Sir, please raise your right hand and be sworn. You do solemnly swear the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do. Please be seated. State your name, please, for the record.
James Weeder.
Mr. Weeder, if you sit all the way back in the chair, pull the mic in front of you, please. Spell your first and last name, please.
JamesWieder.
Thank you.
Mr. Weeder, please state your occupation for the record.
I'm a reporter, a general assignment reporter at the ABC affiliate in Sacramento, KOVR TV, Channel 13.
On July 19th, 1989, were you so employed?
I was employed at the CBS affiliate in Tucson, Arizona, KOLD, also Channel 13.
And on July 19th, 1989, where were you working?
I was working in the offices of KOLD TV preparing for the day that morning.
I'm sorry, did you indicate that that was Tucson, Arizona?
Yes, in Tucson.
Please state your experience as far as relating to your coverage of matters involving perhaps news stories of arrest, criminal law, that type of thing.
I've been a general assignment reporter and anchor for 10 years, beginning in Mobile. At that time, I began to cover a variety of felony cases, several murder-for-hire cases in the South. In Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I worked next as a news director at a small station, I covered the Velma Barfield trial, which was the serial killer case in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I also have some experience with Captain Jeffrey McDonald from the Fatal Vision trial, working with him and covering that retrial motion in 1985. Later in Monterey, California, I was an anchor and also continued to work general assignment stories as they came up, whether it be murders or robberies and that sort of thing. My next stop was in Tucson as a reporter anchor, again covering this, generally speaking, this type of material when it came up, although I should stress that in a newsroom you don't always do a certain type of story, but I tended to do stories of this type, and I have been for about 10 years now. And in Sacramento, over the last 2 years, I've worked on a number of cases, including the thrill killer case, which I'm working on now, which is Eric Leonard in Sacramento. I'm also involved in some work with the Good Guys hostage situation, which was a hostage scenario shooting involved with a lone defendant at this point. And just last week, I was working on the return of Charles Ng to Calaveras County to face multiple murder charges in that part of the state. So again, I should stress, while I don't cover murder cases per se all the time, I've covered a variety of them as they have come up.
Now, directing your attention back to the date of July 19th, 1989, you were working, I take it, that morning?
Yes, I was.
Now, did you have occasion to preview or to hear over a police radio scanner an item of interest or a story relating to this case?
Yes, we did. It was during our morning meeting that morning when an item came over the police scanner. Now, our daily meetings at Channel 13 were held in the news director's office, and next door in the assignment editor that area. We had a number of police scanners that are going at different frequencies. And a call came over the city, TPD city scanner. I don't recall the frequency number, but the call came over as nude man walking westbound in eastbound lane of Interstate 10.
Did you take any action?
Did they say he was nude before? The other people that testified he was jumping out into traffic? Did they say he was nude? Did I miss that? How'd I miss that? I caught the part where he was trying to unalive himself by jumping out in front of traffic. But I missed the part about him not having clothes on. Did they say that? Or did I miss it?
As a result?
I did not take any action. However, the assignment editor came into our office, announced this call. There were several of us in the office at the time, and at that point, I opted, with a photographer, to leave the building to check out this call on the scanner.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
What, did you arrive at the location?
We left the area, and within 3 to 5 minutes, we proceeded eastbound on Interstate 10 from the downtown sector. At the bottom of the off-ramp, we bumped into Tucson Police Chief Peter Ronstadt.
Now, I take it at this point in time, you were not aware of the precise nature of this call or its relationship to the death of Rebecca Schaeffer.
We had absolutely no idea as to what the nature of this call was, and quite frankly, most television stations do not respond to calls such as this.
Yesterday, they mentioned that he was jumping into traffic, trying to unalive himself, but they neglected to say that he was nude while doing it. And the cop, it was a cop, right, that was on the stand that was talking about it, and he said, he asked the guy, what are you, mental or something? Do you have a mental problem? But they never said that he didn't have clothes on. I would think that would be an important factor. I mean, yeah, it's crazy to be jumping out in front of traffic, but I think I would have mentioned that he didn't have clothes on. I mean, that's an important detail. Google says he was not found nude. Okay, I'm confused now. What?
Do not go for that reason, and because it is not of news value.
Maybe
we
he
opted
made it
to
up
go
for
only
ratings.
because we were able to run another errand, and so we were going to check this out and go run our errand for the newsroom.
When you, prior to your meeting with Peter Ronstadt, had you monitored any other police radio transmissions?
We also have police scanners in the vehicle, and we heard additional requests for a patrol backup to assist with this person. There were no patrol units available, at least this is according to the chief, and as a result, being that he was on his way to work, he opted to act as the assisting patrol officer for this call.
Now, did the nature of the police radio calls, did the information change from what you had first heard?
There were several references to nude and/or nutcase walking again, westbound into eastbound traffic, although the initial reports over the scanner were limited because officers are, they're not allowed to go into great detail about particular cases that are just happening.
Yeah, there'll be an objection unless the court is limiting this, or, I don't know, it's not admissible for the truth of the matter. This witness is relaying hearsay. I don't even know from where it's
It's
coming.
being offered to show this witness's state of mind and to explain his conduct leading up to the filming.
Well, perhaps it
So
would,
helps explain to me, and I would, unless you object, accept certain parts of it for the truth of the matter asserted. I was always wondering why the police chief was there. And this explains that. May I consider that for the truth? I realize technically it's objection.
no, that's not objectionable. I mean, not for me.
So now, Mr. Weeder, you've had a series, I take it, of different radio calls that you're monitoring. You are, if I understand your testimony correctly, running a different errand. You're not in that area.
Actually, we were running to get donuts for the newsroom.
So on your way now to get donuts, you run into Police Chief Peter Ronstadt, correct?
My first conversation with him was car to car, I being in the passenger seat of the news vehicle, he the lone driver on the driver's side of his car, right at where the freeway emptied at that corner.
At that point in time, were you able to observe Mr. Bardo?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, did you have a discussion with Chief Peter Ronstadt?
Very brief discussion. My first words were, "What are you doing here?" Being that the chief of police of Tucson, I'd never seen him on a crime scene to begin with, so I was surprised to see him there. And his response was, "Well, what are you doing here?" And after that point, he mentioned that he was going to assist this motorcycle officer who didn't have a patrol unit to transport this subject that was walking into the freeway. That was pretty much the end of that conversation.
At some point, was your attention directed to Mr. Bardo?
Well, a few moments later, Chief Ronstadt went into the fast food restaurant area where the officer was talking with Mr. Bardo, and we watched from a location. Our first location was across the street. Then, to the best of my recollection, the chief approached us, and at that point, I left my cameraman and talked with him alone. And
Did the police chief strike that? At some point in time, did you then decide that you were going to film Mr. Bardo and that situation?
well, at the time, we didn't know what we had, and we did not take the camera out of the back of the car at this point, but we would shortly.
Well, continue then and tell us how you reached to that point.
My second conversation with the chief, I asked him what this was because, quite frankly, we were in a hurry to leave. We didn't really want to stay. And at that point, he mentioned, well, this guy says he's the one who killed the actress in Hollywood. Now, since this case was of a national format earlier that morning, I knew what he was talking about, that he was referring to the victim.
What did you do in response to that statement then?
I said, "Oh, really? What would you like us to do?" And he said at that point that he really didn't know what this person's mental state was, that if he could...
Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay. It's unreliable. It's inadmissible. I don't know what exception, and I don't know why it's being elicited at this point.
Well, to this court, the police chief or the TV commentators.
Yeah, I think if you're naked and jumping in front of cars on the highway, it's safe to say you've got something mentally wrong with you. I don't think that's a stretch.
Opinion as to somebody's mental state that they don't know would be of so small significance that it makes no difference to me. But if you want to object, I'm just receiving it to know the sequence of event to explain why the camera was taken out at the point it was, and for no other reason.
And Your
I
Honor,
understand that, Your Honor, except that the other witnesses who are not present, whose hearsay is now being sought to be admitted, their statements are not relevant nor necessary to explain the sequence of events. This witness could simply relate that the chief asked him to film it, not
All
what
right,
his
the
comments
chief's-
were editorially speaking.
The chief's doubt as to what the defendant's mental condition was, that statement will be...
I was getting to that.
again, let me state, Your Honor, it was my understanding that we had an agreement at the time we previewed this video in chambers that the evidentiary value was going to be limited. And we understood that, and I think you made that clear at the time that you took the bench and made the statement. So that's understood. We are not offering...
No,
That goes to the tape, not this witness's testimony.
I am going to allow, if you seek to elicit it, this witness to describe Mr. Bardo's conduct at the time he saw him when he was not being videotaped, as well as when he was being videotaped. I don't think we have a best evidence rule or anything like that. So we're going beyond. All I meant to limit by my statement was what I would consider from the videotape, unless there's further argument. So I think that Mr. Bardo's conduct will speak for itself, and I don't want to get the police chief's opinion in unless he is here and we can evaluate what basis he has for offering such an opinion.
That's fine.
So it'll be stricken.
As a result of your conversation with Chief Peter Ronstadt, were you restricted in any way as to how you were going to be allowed to film what you were seeing as far as the arrest of Mr. Robert Bardo?
The chief stated, you folks can stay, but do me a favor. I don't know about this guy's mental state. Would you please put the camera, if you do set it up, please set it up so he can't see the camera.
Did you do that?
Yes, we did.
Tell the court, what did you do?
At that point, the photographer unloaded the camera and started shooting tape of two vehicles, and Mr. Bardo was standing for a moment outside one of the vehicles, and then he proceeded to go inside. I left the photographer, and I moved closer to the scene. I took off my jacket, I undid my tie, I bought a cup of coffee, and I tried to look like I just happened to be in the area because I didn't want to, I wanted to cover the story without irritating the chief, and I also wanted to get a little closer to see who this person was.
Now, directing your attention to the man seated at the council table, Mr. Bardo, for the record, is he the individual that you saw that day?
Yes.
Now, when you observed Mr. Bardo on that occasion, how did he appear? How was he dressed?
Well, there is, it's hard to answer that because as I mentioned earlier, the scanner report went out as nude man on the freeway. But at that point, he had on a T-shirt that didn't, in my opinion anyway, didn't fit, and some pants that didn't fit, and kind of an off-white type attire.
How about his hair, his appearance?
Well, as the chief was talking with Mr. Bardo and the other officer was talking with Mr. Bardo, this went on over a period of at least, to the best of my recollection, between 5 and 10 minutes. Now, as the photographer was shooting, I was just staring at the scene. And from what I could tell in looking at the defendant, at best, he looked disheveled, and at worst, he looked drunk to me. He looked stoned, drunk. The words that we used in the news car were loony. That's the kind of terminology that we use the whole day. And not that he was making wild threats or anything of that sort. I couldn't hear him, obviously, and I didn't see him say anything. I didn't see his lips move at all.
Were you able to look at his general demeanor as far as, say, his facial expressions or head movements?
Well, it looked like he hadn't shaved. He had, from what I could tell, very dark, deep circles, black circles under his eye. His hair was totally frizzed out. Looked like it hadn't been combed in a long time. And a kind of side-to-side facial and head bouncing back and forth.
What about his eyes? Did you see whether or not his eyes seemed to be focused in any particular direction?
It appeared to me that his eyes were up even though his head was down. It's a scene similar. The only thing I can relate to, I can't relate to any medical textbook, but the only thing I can relate it to is a movie that I saw, Full Metal Jacket, and in one of the scenes, one of the key players in that film, who does kill himself in the movie, it reminded me of that scene because of the way his eyes and head were positioned. Eyes up, kind of head down.
Now, you continued to observe Mr. Bardo, true?
Yes, for a few more moments. At that time, the chief came back again, at which point I asked him, can we move the camera in closer? And he said no. And I said, why? And he said, because he says he's the one that killed the actress. Repeating that, and that they're going to take him away now, and that was the last conversation I had with the chief on this matter.
To the best of your knowledge, were you able to film that portion of Mr. Bardo's detention and transportation into police Ronstadt's vehicle?
The only available video and the only available shots at that time were the transfer of Mr. Bardo from Chief Ronstadt's patrol vehicle, an unmarked, I believe was a Chevy Caprice, as the tape will indicate, into an unmarked van. And that was the last, and when the van door shut, that was the last we saw of the defendant to that point.
Okay. When was the next time that you had an opportunity to observe Mr. Bardo and his condition?
Yeah, and I might add that the conversation shortly after that, if I may, shortly after that, a variety of news vehicles showed up, obviously wanting to get the same tape, and did not. And the conversation, to the best of my recollection with my photographer, was, boy, this guy's a little nuts. In terms of
Objection, Your Honor. I'm tired of this witness offering these statements when I think it's already been ruled upon that they are hearsay statements and they are not admissible and they are inappropriate.
Statements of the other photographer regarding the defendant's mental condition will be stricken as hearsay.
Did you make any statements?
Inadmissible opinion as well.
Did you make any statements concerning your impressions of Mr. Bardo's condition?
throughout the day.
Objection. Not only is this witness's characterization of the defendant's behavior irrelevant, it's also has no foundation, he has no psychological expertise, and his characterizations are irrelevant to this court's proceedings.
Your Honor, that type of testimony has already been elicited by the district attorney in her case in chief. Her witness, Mr. Eggers, was allowed to speak about rational conduct. The officers at Tucson were allowed to go into how he appeared, that he was rational, and this goes towards that issue which was raised by the prosecution.
Your Honor, but those witnesses...
Opinion as to how he was acting and some basic conclusions as to his apparent mental state will be allowed. But statements that he made at the time or that anyone else made at the time are hearsay. And the reason I'm allowing a limited amount of opinion is because of this witness's experience in covering murder cases as well as the ordinary experience one would have as a layman. All right.
Did you reach any conclusions as to Mr. Bardo's mental condition?
Well, I think it was too early plus too many events were happening too fast to really know what was going on. I didn't reach any kind of conclusion, no.
Did you have any impressions as to Mr. Bardo's mental condition based on what you had observed to that point and based on your experience?
Well, based on what I observed, and also keep in mind that we had a tape that we were playing back and forth as many times as we wanted to in the field, I am not a physician by any stretch of the imagination, but I do want to stress that at best he appeared disheveled and at worst drunk or stoned. And I can't get more technical than that. I don't think it would be fair to the court of this trial, but that's my opinion.
And now, going further then, after the arrest and the transportation, Mr. Bardo, did you have occasion to see him again?
Well, at that point, he was in custody in Tucson. LAPD units were called to interview Mr. Bardo, and there was no opportunity whatsoever to talk or even see the defendant until later that evening.
Okay. And what happened later that evening?
He was transferred from one facility to another. To the best of my recollection, that's the Tucson Police Department to the Pima County Jail. From the garage of the Tucson Police Department, the department, for variety of reasons, alerts the media in terms of allowing video of what we call walk-downs of suspects in a variety of cases. We were told that we would have a walk-down opportunity of Mr. Bardo after the dinner hour, and we did, although very brief. It was my intention to try to ask Mr. Bardo a question. So I positioned myself as close as I could to him without violating any security.
Were you able to get close enough to take a good look at Mr. Bardo?
I was as close to him as he was going into the car as I am to this stenographer. And I was able to yell out a question.
For the record, Your Honor, it appears to be approximately a distance of, I would say, 2 to 3 feet.
And as you will see on the tape, he comes out of the jail, around the vehicle, into the back door, and I'm off camera, obviously, but a few feet off camera.
When you looked at Mr. Bardo, were you able to see his eyes and his face?
Well, at this point, he is trying to keep his head down because he notices that there are cameras, as any suspect traditionally does when the media is on the scene. And at that point, they hustled him in as fast as they could into the patrol car. This entire episode lasted approximately 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. At that time, I asked him, "Robert, did you do it?" Was the only thing that I could think of off the top of my head, and something quick. He did not respond, and he did not look at me.
Can you tell the court, to the best of your recollection, what you observed in looking at his eyes?
I could tell you that he looked the same, if not just a tad more worse for the wear than he did earlier that day. Now, in terms of the earlier observation, this is when Mr. Bardo was in the vehicle and also outside the vehicle, standing, having a conversation. In this next scene, he is just being transported as fast as he can into the vehicle. So in terms of an eye description, I can't do that.
What occurred next then after you made that shot of what you called the walk down or the walk through?
Well, at that point, the walk down was over and Mr. Bardo was held in the Pima County Jail, but our involvement in the case continued for the next 5 to 10 working days.
Did you have an opportunity to observe any further contact or any further conduct on the part of Mr. Bardo?
I did not have any firsthand contact. However, in the Tucson, Pima County system, inmates and suspected felons during their first appearance are viewed via a video screen. And there were several court appearances over the next few days, pretty fast and furious in terms of schedules. And obviously the intent of the state of California was to bring Mr. Bardo back post haste. So there were a variety of court appearances during that time. And so my assignment continued with Mr. Bardo. I handled most of the story work in terms of the follow-ups and so forth.
We're getting into the noon hour. Perhaps we better, apparently we're not going to finish with this morning.
If, well, the court...
Aren't you going to play the tape and then he's going to be cross-examined?
Yes.
Tape is about 10 minutes. As far as I'm concerned, we can go through the noon hour, but let me check with my staff to see if they...
May we approach?
Yes, you may. All right, we'll proceed. We'll proceed until this witness is finished.
Your Honor, at this juncture, then, I propose to play the tape, and then I will ask a few questions.
All right, fine. Let me ask him a question just to clarify something while you're doing that. Mr. Weeder, you said you continued to cover the matter when there were court appearances having to do possibly with the extradition. Were you actually in court or were you viewing on this videotape?
I was in court, Your Honor, but they do not allow defendants, selected defendants in court. They're just put on the video.
Oh, I see. He is
on the
you were
video
seeing
screen.
him while you were in court. He was not in court.
Right.
All right, we don't do that this over here. All right, thank you, sir.
Follow-up to that, were you able to view Mr. Bardo's image on the video monitor?
Yes, and and again, I am not a medical person and don't aspire to be, but I must.
Objection, this is non-responsive.
I'm getting to the answer.
He answered the question already, as far as I can hear, Your Honor.
Well, all right, that's
I know that you do not profess to have any medical expertise. However, based on your experience and based on your training and your coverage of various murder cases, which you've already testified to, did you form any impressions?
Yes, I did, and so did the other reporters at the time.
Without telling us what the other reporters' impressions were, just tell the court what your impressions were.
My impressions were that Robert was a sick young man.
I am going to play the tape.
Back to you. Vic, we do have more information. Plus, if you missed our exclusive arrest video at 5, sit tight. We'll have that in just a moment. Now, L.A. cops say that Bardo's obsession with Schaeffer is similar to the John Hinckley-Jodie Foster case a few years back. They say that Bardo collected magazines, tapes, and pictures of Schaeffer. Now, police said the suspect tried to kill himself this morning on Interstate 10. Instead, he bumped into Tucson police and Chief Peter Ronstadt. Ronstadt was on his way to work. The 19-year-old has been booked into the Pima County Jail, but may not stay for long. L.A. police want Bardo extradited to Southern California to face first-degree murder charges. The body of the 21-year-old victim was discovered Tuesday morning at her L.A. apartment.
Sam, what's going on here?
Schaeffer appeared in a variety of productions, but was best known for her supporting role in the CBS TV series My Sister Sam. Detectives claim that Bardo was obsessed with the young actress.
Appeared to be very fond of her, had a collection of her, a video collection of her work as an actress, and in fact had a photograph of her which was
I agree, but they needed him to get this video in. They should have restricted questions just to, why did you take this video? Who was there? Like foundation questions for the video, not, Did you think he had a mental problem or whatever? And that's on the defense attorney. And I think for the judge to make a ruling like that, that the other attorney has to object. Because if there's no objection, then they just keep going and going and going. Unless you're in Canton, Massachusetts.
Was signed by her.
Tucson Police Chief Peter Ronstadt assisted with the arrest this morning. Bardo reportedly tried to kill himself by walking into interstate traffic near the Congress off-ramp. Now, Ronstadt and company managed to stop Bardo and interview him in the chief's patrol car. And that led to more interviews with homicide investigators back at headquarters.
He looked tired. His behavior wasn't really abnormal that I saw this morning. We are questioning about why he was in the freeway, in front of cars on the freeway.
You've seen this fellow before?
I haven't personally, no. The police have had contact with him in Tucson before.
When Bardo attended Pueblo High School, he was a straight-A student, but dropped out of the 9th grade. His last job, a janitor at a fast food restaurant.
Everything that you have to take to.
Tonight, TPD detectives are searching the Bardo family home on the south side, room by room, and say they've already seized some property. Bardo's brothers and parents are in seclusion, but neighbors are talking about some strange behavior exhibited by the young man next door.
He walks in his front yard on the sidewalk back and forth, walks in the house, looks out through the window, looks up and down. It looks like there's something wrong with him.
Now, Bardo has a date with a Tucson judge tomorrow afternoon for his initial appearance. After that, he could be returned to L.A. if he waives his extradition rights. Now, Tucson detectives at this point have no hold on Bardo. They told me earlier, if L.A. wants him, they can have him.
There's another story.
Don't you think you want to tell your The 19-year-old appeared dazed and confused at this morning's Superior Court hearing. Lawyers did all the talking. Steve Galindo argues his client was extradited from Tucson to Los Angeles under secret and illegal conditions. The public defender also wanted this Channel 13 News videotape introduced as evidence. Galindo claims this only known recording of an extradition proves that Tucsonan was denied a right to appeal the transfer. Judge David Horowitz shot down the argument and refused to enter the tape as evidence. He also cleared the way for a preliminary hearing next month. More appeals are likely.
In essence, I feel that his due process rights have been violated twice now, once in Arizona and again here.
The defense also claims that Bardo's mental health will play a key role in this case. Bardo was arrested in Tucson for allegedly shooting the 21-year-old actress at point-blank range outside her apartment. Prosecutor Marcia Clark says Bardo was obsessed with Schaeffer, not insane, and introduced a new murder indictment today that would allow the state to seek the death penalty pending a conviction. Clark adds today's extradition debate and ruling ends a series of legal smokescreens designed to delay the prosecution.
It was certainly early in the early morning hours that they retrieved Mr. Bardo, and that's because the plane was delayed 4 times. They sat on the runway for 45 minutes. Had it been up to them, they would have been there a great deal sooner, as 2 tired officers will certainly assure you. There was nothing done surreptitiously.
Things happen.
That's the end of the tape.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Considering from that tape is the appearance and the actions of Mr. Bardo, if either side wish me to consider anything beyond that, I will hear argument. Otherwise, that's it. All right. Continue, Direct.
Mr. Weeder, you had an opportunity now again to review the tape. Does that accurately represent what you had observed at the times that relevant times that you testified to?
Yes, it does.
Now again, I would like to ask you, as far as your impressions of Mr. Bardo's mental state, did they remain constant or did they change based on what you had observed throughout the series?
They remained constant, and as the days progressed and in conversation with key players in this case, they were enforced several times over. One piece of video was, if you notice, Robert shaved his head for the first appearance, and you could tell that on the tape. And again, that doesn't mean that anyone is crazy, but there were certain elements that kept popping up in this case, comments from other people I talked with, his lawyer in Tucson, that sort of thing, that reinforced that, our initial evaluation, if you will.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
You may cross-examine. By the way, my practice in this court is when there's a videotape or an audio tape is not to have the reporter take down what is said. I take it you're going to mark that as an exhibit.
Yes, Your Honor. I have
I don't know whether she did or not in this case. But,
that was my assumption as well. I was not requesting that it be transcribed. However, I have left the tape there, and it's ready to play again in the event it would be helpful to Mr. Weeder to cross.
Mr. Weeder, the defendant, relative to your last answer, might simply shave his head because it's hot, might he not?
That's a possibility.
Did you ask him why he shaved his head?
Didn't have that opportunity. Wish I did.
Did you talk to any of the officers who spoke to him to find out why he shaved his head?
No, I did not.
If he indeed did tell them he had shaved his head because it was hot, would that be crazy?
I mean, that's an opinion. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, yes or no comes to mind.
Can you ask me the question again?
Sure. If you spoke to the officers and they indicated that on asking the defendant why he shaved his head, he indicated it was hot and this was more comfortable, would you consider that to be crazy?
No.
Do you believe the defendant presently faces the death penalty?
Do I believe?
Yes.
He does not, to my knowledge.
At the time that you were covering this event, and I'm including the moment of the extradition, you are aware that there was some animosity generated as a result of the manner in which he was removed, especially as it pertained to the feelings of the defense attorney for Mr. Bardo in Arizona, Lori Lefferts, correct?
There was animosity is a light term.
Well, I did not speak to the woman myself, sir, so I will take your word for that.
They were outraged is a better term.
And you shared that outrage, did you not?
I did not share anything with the Pima County Public Defender's Office.
When you ran into Chief Ronstadt, where was that?
That was at where the freeway exits. This was eastbound I-10. Now, I believe it's Alvernon, but I have to double check that exit.
Can you tell me what landmarks are around that location?
There are several restaurants, fast food type places.
For example?
Again, I can't be specific. It's been 2 years now since I've lived in that area. But to the best of my knowledge, that would be a typical Carl's Jr., Motel 6, that type of thing.
But you're uncertain.
As to the specifics, yes.
Was there a hotel?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, I believe there was.
Did you see an Officer Norton present at the time?
No, I did not. I did not talk with Officer Norton at all.
You now know, of course, he was the original arresting officer.
Yes, I do.
And you do not recall seeing him on the scene at all during the time that you were there?
I did state that there was another officer on the scene, if you remember my testimony a few moments ago. I did state that.
Did you ever find out who that was?
No. It was not necessary to find out who that was.
Now, originally you heard on the broadcast that there was a nude man walking on the freeway. Is that correct?
That's incorrect. That was over the police scanner.
Over the police scanner. You heard it was a nude man.
I did not hear.
Okay.
A gentleman in the assignment desk heard.
And he relayed that to you?
Yes.
And you decided that might be worth checking out on your way to get donuts?
I decided that since we were going to be in the area, we would check it out.
What time was it that you left?
Specifically,
Yes.
I can't recall the exact moment that we left. I know it was in the morning. I know it was early in the morning. Sometime after 8:30, sometime before 9:30, somewhere around there.
What time did you start to work then?
The shift starts at 8:30.
You started work at 8:30. About how long had you been at work when you heard the broadcast, or that you heard about the police?
We had just gotten in that morning.
So then you think you heard the scanner at about 8:30? You heard about what had been on the scanner at about 8:30?
Approximately.
Have you had an opportunity to review any of the police reports in this matter?
Not recently.
You indicated that among the cases you covered was the Jeffrey McDonald case where he murdered his wife, he was convicted of murdering his wife and children.
Correct.
You indicated that you worked with him.
Interviewed him
For what purpose?
for a story.
What kind of story was that?
A feature on his retrial request in Raleigh Federal Court. And when you use the word, and I know you're trying to use with him as, I think you're trying to infer that I...
Mr. Weeder, please. Just answer the questions. Do not try to guess what the prosecutor is really at, but answer the question that is literally asked of you.
All right.
Sir, I believe I'm quoting you. When you
With is a common...
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm asking the question. You responded to Mr. Galindo's question stating that you worked with Jeffrey McDonald. What did you mean by that?
That I did stories about Jeffrey McDonald. With is a common term used by a lot of reporters to describe the stories that they're working on.
Did you have some personal belief about whether or not he was guilty or innocent in the matter?
Yes, I do.
Now, when the chief asked you to film what you were able to see of the defendant when you were on the scene in the very beginning, I did not see that on the tape here. Did you do so?
The tape that shows Mr. Bardo in the car is when we started rolling.
So that was actually at the scene very shortly after his arrest, is that correct?
I would say so.
And you did so at the chief's request?
He wasn't arrested at that point.
I understand. You did that at the chief's request?
We moved back, yes.
And you were you seem to be very intent on letting us know that the chief wanted to tell you that he felt he had some question about the defendant's mental state. Did you ask the chief why he felt that way?
No.
Did the chief indicate to you possibly that it was because he had just confessed to a high-profile murder?
No.
You indicated in your testimony when Mr. Galindo asked you that you thought the defendant's clothing was ill-fitting. The impression I got is that you were indicating to us it was too small for him.
No, I thought they were too baggy.
Some people do wear their clothing baggy, do they not?
Yes.
Matter of fact, in California, have you not seen people on the streets, notably boys on the beach, who wear big baggy t-shirts? Do you not?
Yes, it's possible.
Are they crazy?
Do I know if half of California is crazy? No.
You indicated that you thought the defendant looked drunk and disheveled and loony. Those were your words.
That's correct.
And his hair looked frizzed out.
Correct.
How do you look after being up for 48 hours, sir?
I have no idea.
Isn't it possible that all of these things that you're describing...
That's not an evidence that Mr. Bardo was up for 48 hours. We have no evidence whatsoever.
No, it's an inference. I'm sorry, Your Honor. It is an
Also
inference.
argumentative, and both the question and the answer that it gives meaning to are of relatively little significance in this case.
Were you aware...
Well, it'll be stricken.
Were you aware of the possibility that the defendant had traveled from Tucson to Los Angeles, been up all night, committed the murder, come back on the bus, and not slept for 48 hours at the time you saw him?
That didn't come out till days later.
You could not have known that at the time you saw him.
Impossible to know that.
Isn't it possible then that what you saw and described as being drunk and disheveled and loony was simply consistent with those facts that I've just described to you?
Could you repeat that? Because I lost you here on this question.
You described the defendant when you saw him as appearing to be drunk, disheveled, and loony.
Correct.
You did not know at the time of the possibility that he had been up for 48 hours and committed a murder in the middle of that time.
Of course, no.
Isn't it possible that all of this description of him that you ascribe to being loony is possibly simply consistent with someone who had gone through the events I've just described without sleep for 48 hours?
To the best of my recollection, he just looked disheveled, stoned, or drunk.
Okay. And so I'm repeating the question, sir. Had you known at the time that he had not possibly slept for 48 hours, would that have altered your opinion any about whether or not he was drunk?
To be honest with you, I'd have to say no.
You described the defendant having his head down with his eyes looking up, as I'm doing to you now.
Sort of measure.
In that posture. Have you not seen the judge look at me that way on occasion?
That's to get over my reading glasses, Miss Clark.
And I thought they were piercing.
Whatever mental condition I may suffer from. Absolutely nothing to do with my looking over my glasses.
Now, when you saw the defendant, he was not waving his arms, was he?
No.
He wasn't flapping his wings like a chicken?
No.
He was not spitting. He was not yelling. Is that correct?
Didn't hear a word.
In fact, you indicated you didn't even see his lips move.
No, I had testified that I did see some lip movement when he was not in the patrol car for a few moments standing up.
Was there someone standing with him?
An officer.
Was the officer facing him at the time?
I can't recall.
Could you tell if the officer was speaking to him?
I believe they were having a conversation.
Did you hear him shout any threats to anyone?
No.
Did you hear him, how long did you watch him for?
At which point?
At the first point when you saw him before you had the tape rolling.
I would say enough time to get the camera out of the car, so a few moments. I would say a total of 10 minutes.
Took 10 minutes to get the camera out of the car?
No, I would say a total of 10, total of 10 minutes.
Before you got the camera out of the car, would you say it was 1 minute, 30
I'd say
seconds?
it was 3 to 4 minutes.
And after the 3 to 4 minutes is when we see on the tape, is the part that the tape comes to in the beginning, is that right?
Yes.
So all the conduct that you've described that did not appear on the tape occurred in roughly 3 minutes.
Roughly speaking. Now, which conduct are you referring to, though?
The conduct that you observed before you started the tape.
Okay, but nothing specific about that?
You indicate to me that you saw him standing and talking to the officer.
Briefly.
Briefly. You described what he was wearing. Okay. Let me ask you this. When you first saw the defendant, where was he?
He was talking with the officers. That's the first time I saw him.
Standing by the patrol car.
Correct.
And during the entire time that you observed him before the tape was rolling, he was standing by that same patrol car.
No, I believe he was moved into the patrol car fairly quickly.
So what was that? He was moved 2 feet so that he could sit inside the car as opposed to standing next to it?
He was just moved into the back of the patrol vehicle, and he was standing near it.
Was he standing near the rear door?
I can't be specific about that.
You estimate that it was any more than 2 to 3 feet that he was moved?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
So you did not see him walking?
No.
You saw him standing, and then you saw him put into the back seat for a period of approximately 3 minutes, based upon which you have now testified that you saw him and thought him to be drunk, disheveled, and loony. Is that correct?
Yes.
When was it that you made an observation that you thought his eyes were up while his head was down?
Let me, if I can, answer the question. Just define my position as well in relation to where it was in the camera and the sequence of events that occurred. I was east of the camera, approximately 150 feet closer to the defendant, and observed this defendant. And if there's a zoom lens on the camera, so the camera was zooming in, I was physically closer at that point. So I had a better vantage than the camera did. And the sequence of events were the defendant talking with the officers, being put into the patrol car, then being taken out of the patrol car and put into the van.
So the tape started rolling at what point in those events?
When he's in the van, when he's in the patrol car.
So the only thing that you observed, to which you've now testified, that does not appear on the tape, is the point when he's standing outside the patrol car and getting into the back seat.
Correct.
And the rest of that is on tape.
Correct.
At what point did you see him look with his eyes up while his head was down, as kind of like I'm looking at you now?
There was a point where he turned his head and looked directly towards my vantage point. Now, I was not what you would call close at this point. I'm still a good 100 feet away. But I did get a very good look at his face at that point. I don't think he thought I was a reporter at that point. Just someone having a cup of coffee in the parking lot.
Where was the cameraman?
Further back.
Where was your truck?
Also, even further back than that.
Where was the equipment? Your equipment, your camera equipment.
As I mentioned earlier, I left the photographer and moved closer in.
But he was outside the van. The photographer.
Yes.
And his cameras were outside the van. He was setting them up, was he not?
At which point? Are you talking about preceding?
When the defendant looked at you.
He was still setting up at that point.
So he was looking in your direction while your cameraman was setting up and appearing.
He was looking in a variety of directions.
Well, you told me, sir, just now that when you made the observation about his eyes looking up while his head was down, he was looking at you.
At that point. But there were several, as I mentioned earlier, for some reason, his head bobs up and down quite a bit, and he looks at a variety of directions. I've seen it several times now. I saw it then.
So he was basically being detained by the police and looking around at everybody around him, people who were approaching your van.
No, he was being detained by the police and his head was moving up and down and in circles.
You were how many feet away, sir?
Approximately 100.
100 feet away. And you can tell me now that based on that observation of him that he was not looking around to see who else was approaching?
Well,
is that what you're saying?
No, I don't know what the defendant was thinking at the time.
Exactly. So when you thought that he was looking at you, within your field of vision, also within that field of vision, was your van and your cameraman with his equipment. Is that correct? Very close to you.
Can you repeat the question?
Can we have it read back?
Yes. Read that, please.
So when you thought that he was looking at you in your field of vision, also within that field of vision was your van and cameraman?
It wasn't set up yet.
No, but they were in the process of setting it up, as you earlier testified. Is that correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Ms. Clark asked you if it was possible that what you had observed as far as his appearance, being drunk or disheveled, loony, those impressions that you had, could have been the result of his perhaps being up for 48 hours. You remember that line of questions?
Yes.
And your answer, I believe, was yes, correct?
Yes.
Could it not have also been possible that what you were observing, as far as his appearing to be disheveled, loony, or whatever your impressions were as to his mental condition, that what you had observed was the result of some significant mental disorder, such as schizophrenia or something like that? Isn't that also possible?
Well, objection. This witness doesn't have the expertise to answer that.
Based on the testimony I've heard so far from lay witnesses on schizophrenia, one of whom equated it with multiple personality, that's sustained. He'll not be allowed to venture whether or not the defendant is schizophrenic or suffering from any other major mental disorder.
Isn't it also possible, however, that there are or could be a number of reasons why Mr. Bardo appeared the way he appeared?
I initially thought he was a homeless person.
Ms. Clark asked you about a situation where you were aware of certain animosity between the public defender and Pima County. Remember that line of questions?
Yes, I do.
And your statement was animosity was not a strong enough word. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what did you mean by that?
The Pima...
Objection, Your Honor. I think it's apparent, and if counsel is going to attempt to probe Ms. Lefferts' feelings about me, I think they're irrelevant. I was simply probing them to find out if this witness was aware of them, but I think that further inquiry concerning her feelings about these events, unless they were communicated to this witness, are irrelevant.
They were, Your Honor, but not from Ms. Lefferts.
Moment, sir, there's no question pending before you. Your job here is to answer questions from the lawyer and perhaps from the court, if appropriate, but not to volunteer information in the middle of a statement being made by one of the lawyers. But I will allow the answer that may go to bias in some way. Let's hear it.
The Pima County Public Defender's Office held a news conference immediately following Mr. Bardo's extradition to Los Angeles. Ms. Lefferts, as Ms. Clark has mentioned at the time, that was Mr. Bardo's attorney, Lori Lefferts, was indeed outraged at the way he was extradited, but the news conference was held by her supervisor, whose name escapes me at the moment. They were not outraged necessarily as much as the extradition as to a news conference by Ira Reiner earlier in the day, outlining the removal of Mr. Bardo from Tucson. That was the motive for the news conference in Tucson.
There was another question asked by Ms. Clark. She asked you if you did ask the police chief, Peter Ronstadt, I believe is his name, why he felt that defendant was, I believe your term was loony. Do you remember that question by Ms. Clark?
Yes.
And I take it your answer was that you did not ask the police chief why he felt that way, correct?
That would be totally an unprofessional question, on top of which, being the chief of police, that would not be a very wise move on my part.
You were asked some questions about the way Mr. Bardo looked in reference to California dress, California lifestyle. Would you, based on your experience as a court reporter over different areas, would you consider what you observed in Mr. Bardo's dress to be described as California casual?
No, I would not.
And why not?
The idea of California casual in just my brief meetings with Mr. Bardo and in seeing videotape and so forth does not adequately describe Mr. Bardo, in my opinion. I think California casual is a term, again, this is just opinion about a well-heeled Californian in terms of dress.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
think you indicated initially that you did not reach any conclusions about the defendant's mental state at the time you first saw him.
Correct.
And you did not form any opinion until after you had several times reviewed that tape. Is that correct?
Even then, we really didn't have time to get into it.
So when, at what point was it that you started to form the opinions you've expressed here today?
After several stories in which we observed Mr. Bardo, his movements, and his answers to questions within the Pima County system as the court hearings were taking place.
When you say his answers to questions, sir, are you
From the judge.
From the judge at the time of his arraignment?
Correct.
Well, did the judge engage in some lengthy colloquy with him concerning his rights and his desires and choices?
No, but I think it's fair to assume, Ms. Clark, that in covering various court trials, I think one can form an opinion after viewing a suspected felon over a period of time.
Sir,
Let me ask this. What questions were asked by the judge and what answers were given in response to those questions that tended to cause you to form an opinion that perhaps he was mentally unbalanced?
My opinion was based, Judge, rather on his movements when he wasn't in discussion with anybody.
So the questions asked by the judge and the answers given played no part in forming your opinion?
It played some part, but not, and it did not foster the entire opinion, no.
Do you remember what the questions and answers were?
Very run-of-the-mill name, date of birth, that sort of thing. Very preliminary.
As far as you know, from your knowledge of the case, were the defendant's answers to those routine questions coherent and accurate?
Accurate, and for the most part, coherent.
Well, you say for the most part. I take it from that you mean as to certain parts they were not coherent. Do you have any specifics that you remember?
Well, I can only recall in one instance where I detected him mumbling underneath his breath.
And did you hear what he mumbled?
No.
Do you remember any answer that he gave that appeared to you to be irrational, either in its own content or when considered with the question that was asked?
No.
All right. Go ahead, proceed.
That's all, Your Honor.
Let me ask you some questions then. You said that you saw the defendant's head bobbing up and down around the time of the arrest. Did you see any of that bobbing up and down repeated on the videotape that we just saw?
If you'll notice, Judge, on the walk down, there is a little bit of that, not much, but there was a little.
Was the bobbing then more pronounced before the cameras started rolling on him at that point?
To my knowledge, Judge, he did not know there was a camera there.
Mr. Weeder, I did not ask you that. You stated, Mr. Weeder, that his head was bobbing up and down. You stated that on the tape you saw a little of that. My question is whether or not you saw more of it before he was on camera.
Yes.
Okay. And when did that occur in the sequence of events that you observed?
This is before being loaded into the police squad car.
All right. What else was going on when that happened? In other words, what was being done to him? I take it he was in police custody at the time this happened.
I don't think he was under arrest at that point, but I think he was being interrogated.
All right, he was being interrogated, and he was in police presence, in close proximity to the police. Is that correct?
Yes.
And exactly what was it during the interrogation that his head was bobbing up and down?
No, I could not see very well into the patrol car. So it was before.
He seated in the patrol car when his head was bobbing up and down?
Yes.
All right. And could you tell whether he was being asked any questions that were answerable by yes or no?
No, I could not.
Was anybody talking to him just prior to his head bobbing up and down?
I believe so, yes.
All right. Could you illustrate with your own head the frequency and extent to which his head bobbed as you saw it as he was seated in the police car?
Well, it's rather than describe, I can describe it. I think that if that's possible, just as
Go ahead.
more like a side to side and back and forth motion.
Side to side and back and forth? Would you characterize it as reptilian or anything like that? I'm trying to get exactly
I would describe it as someone who was drunk. In this case, a sloppy drunk.
Did he appear to you to have lost control of his head so it was flopping?
No, not that bad, no.
All right. Okay, I have nothing further. Anything further?
Was there a portion on the tape, Mr. Weeder, which illustrates the type of head movement that you observed? Do you recall?
No.
I have nothing further on that. Oh, I'm sorry, by the way, this tape that has been played, that is not the original tape, is that correct?
Correct.
The original tape is in what format?
3/4 inch tape format.
And so what did you do as far as transferring those images to this tape?
It's referred to as dubbed down. We dubbed down from 3/4 to VHS.
And does this contain the entire film footage?
Yes.
I do have some further questions. Mr. Weeder, you've covered a lot of murder cases. Can you give us an estimate as to how many?
More than 100, Your Honor.
More than 100? And in how many of these have you actually seen a defendant who later asserted some defense based on his mental condition at the time the crime was committed?
There have been several, Your Honor, but I don't have the specific names. I'd have to look that up.
Oh, I don't need names. What I want is some expression of magnitude, either in terms of absolute numbers.
Well, Velma Barfield is
percentages. Yes.
Several, and
what does several mean to you? I need to know what percent of your cases or how many.
I would say 10%, sir.
About 10% you have. Okay, and in those cases, have you actually either seen or conversed with the defendant?
Within the 10%?
Yes, within that 10%.
I would say half of the 10%.
You have seen or conversed with the defendant?
Yes.
And
more along the lines of seen.
Out of that half, can you give us an estimate as to how many of those you have seen the defendant within 24 to 48 hours after the crime was committed?
I don't believe any, Your Honor.
All right. Except for this one?
I believe so. However, I don't have my notes with me, so I can't be certain on that.
All right. You don't recall any case that sticks out in your mind as having sort of an imminence where you are seeing a defendant very shortly after the crime was committed?
Oh, very, very often.
How many? I'm talking now about that percentage where a mental defense was offered in the case.
There have been a variety of cases that I've covered where mental defense has ultimately been the defense. But at the time of seeing that person in a preliminary hearing setting, I didn't know that.
All right, so I take it there are none other than this case where you saw the defendant within 48 hours of the commission of the crime and where later there was a mental defense offered at trial or at any other time during the legal proceedings.
I have been in a variety of preliminary hearings where mental defense was issued as a defense.
Yes, but a preliminary hearing in those cases, and correct me if I'm wrong because this...
Or first appearance, I should say, excuse me.
All right, and so you saw these people in court?
Correct.
You've never seen anybody at the point of arrest besides this defendant?
Very few times.
How many times where a mental defense was later offered?
Once, to the best of my knowledge, but...
One other than this one?
Yes.
All right. What's the name of that case?
That was the arrest of some escaped inmates from a Washington state prison.
Had they committed an additional crime between the time of the escape and the time of arrest?
Possession of illegal firearms.
All right, but I think during that possession they killed no one.
Correct.
Have you ever seen anybody close to the time of commission where the person had an emotional involvement with the person that was killed?
We have covered a few domestics, Your Honor, where a husband has killed a wife or a wife has killed a husband.
And did you see the defendant shortly after the killing?
In the police vehicle, yes.
And did you talk to them?
It is our intention to try to not at least badger.
So you didn't?
Right.
What's important here is not your policy, but what you have observed. Okay? So you didn't talk to them, and do you know if in any of those, any sort of a mental defense, and by that I mean a defense based on mental illness, not one based on some other emotional condition, was offered?
Yeah. Did you want a yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And do you remember any particular case?
Yeah, when you get asked the yes or no question, they want a yes or no answer.
Character of the mental defense was that was offered?
I believe it was insanity.
But I'm talking about, did you hear any of the testimony regarding any diagnosis that was given by a psychiatrist or a psychologist as to what was supposed to be wrong with the person when they committed the crime?
I have heard that type of testimony, yes.
And in those cases where you saw the defendant immediately after the killing and you characterized them as domestic cases, what was the diagnosis?
It would depend on the case, sir.
Of course. Do you remember any particular diagnosis?
Broken heart in one. That it was over, it was a domestic scene where the husband killed a wife.
Was there any psychiatrist take a stand and say this person was mentally ill when the crime was committed? To your knowledge,
temporarily insane.
I see.
I also covered extensively the case of a Pensacola housewife who was abused for several years and shot her husband.
That was sort of the burning bed syndrome, as it's...
It was a landmark case in Florida.
All right. But other than that mental illness that was inflicted upon the person by the victim in that case, was there any testimony that you know of with respect to an underlying mental condition that preceded the abuse and was relatively unconnected to the abuse?
Again, Your Honor, I cannot give you a yes or no answer because to the best of my recollection, I don't know now. I can find out, but I do not know.
All right, thank you. I have nothing further.
Did you testify for the defense in any of those cases?
No.
When did you come forward to offer your testimony in this case?
I was subpoenaed.
And prior to that, you had conversations with Mr. Galindo, did you not?
Yes, I did.
In fact, you appeared at the preliminary hearing in this matter, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Did you offer your testimony to Mr. Galindo at that time?
I for the videotape.
And did you also offer your testimony in support of the videotape?
Yes, I did.
I have nothing further.
I'd like to get into the jury's. The inference has been raised, perhaps, that somehow you have made a practice to work
with defense counsel, perhaps, or work with defendants. Is that true?
That's incorrect.
Based on your involvement in this case, have I ever advised you on how to testify or what to say or anything like that?
No, you haven't.
Were you subpoenaed? Did you receive a subpoena, lawfully issued subpoena, to appear in court today?
Yes, I did.
And is that why you did it?
Yes, I did.
Have you ever been involved in an effort to try to help Robert in any way whatsoever, work with the defense either here or in Arizona in any way whatsoever?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Weeder, were you aware, before you arrived today, indeed even probably at the preliminary hearing, that this case would involve an issue of mental defense?
Yes.
And when you spoke to the defense attorney at the time of the preliminary hearing, you were undoubtedly made aware at that time, sir, that there would be a mental defense in this case.
Could you repeat that question? I'm sorry for that, but I was formulating an answer, and
The time that you spoke to the defense attorney at the preliminary hearing in this matter, you were at that time aware that there would be a mental defense utilized in this case.
I was unaware of the exact defense at that time.
You knew there would be a mental issue raised, did you not?
I knew that there would be a mental issue raised from the Tucson hearings. I did not know what the scheme of things was to be in LA, and I might add I was here on assignment.
But you did speak to the defense attorney in this matter, Mr. Galindo, at the time of the preliminary hearing.
The Pima County Public Defender's Office asked me to deliver the tape to Mr. Galindo.
So you acted as a courier for the Public Defender's Office in Tucson, or excuse me, Pima County, to the Public Defender's Office in Los Angeles.
No, I was on assignment in Los Angeles to cover the Bardo trial.
And did them a favor in the process.
No, did not.
You brought the tape at their request, did you not?
Mr. Galindo in the Pima County Public Defender's Office knew of the tape. The tape had already been circulated. It was widely known. He wanted to look at it.
And so, at their request, you brought it over.
I happened to be coming here to cover the story.
Can you answer the question, sir?
Yeah, I had it in my possession, yes.
And you offered it to Mr. Galindo for presentation at the hearing?
I offered it to Mr. Galindo. I did not know to what extent he'd be using it for.
At that time, sir, you were made aware, at least by the Pima County Deputy Public Defenders, that a mental state would be placed in issue in this case.
That is correct.
Have you ever collaborated with the defense attorneys to that extent on any of the previous cases?
I haven't collaborated on this case. No.
You were aware of what kind of defense they were going to pursue in this case, were you not?
Yes.
And
everyone was aware of the defense in this case.
Everyone? You mean also your fellow...
Within the news media, within Arizona, within Southern California.
Do you know of any other reporters from Tucson that intend to testify in this matter?
Not to my knowledge, no. But, may I?
No, I don't have any question pending, sir.
Okay.
I think that I may have misheard, I'm not certain. It seemed at one point, sir, that you indicated there was some head bobbing of the nature that you were trying to describe to us on the tape that has been played. Was there? Did you say that?
It appeared to me that there was minor head movement.
Of the nature?
That instead of the standard, and if I may, instead of the standard looking down, it seemed like the head was bobbing. Most defendants, when they see the camera, tend to point and stare down to the ground.
At some point, Mr. Bardo did that as well, did he not?
Yes, plus a variety of other movements.
And you've attempted to describe to us this head bobbing movement that you observed prior to the tape beginning. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you do feel that this tape will represent some of that movement, that this tape that we have in court here today. Is that right?
The minor point, there's only 10 seconds when he leaves the facility and goes into the squad car. And again, instead of looking straight down, he looked at us first, then down, then up, it appeared to me, and then into the car.
And that to you was an example of the kind of head bobbing that you saw earlier before the tape began?
That to me was an example of strange behavior. That was not an example of head bobbing.
Looking at you was an example of strange behavior? Is it? Is that what you said?
The removal of the defendant into the car was part of a series of events that fortified that the defendant was acting strange.
When you first arrived on the scene, sir, you saw the defendant standing and talking to an officer next to the patrol car, correct?
Yes.
You did not immediately remove your cameras, correct?
Correct.
Because you did not see anything of great newsworthy value occurring at that time, correct?
The sequence that you've just illustrated is not totally accurate.
You didn't, let me ask you this, sir. When you first got to the scene, you saw the defendant standing and talking to a police officer next to the patrol car. Is that right?
When we first got to the scene, we parked across the street.
And you saw the defendant standing next to the patrol car with an officer. Is that correct?
After we got out of the car and walked a little bit towards there.
Yes.
Yes.
And you did not immediately instruct your cameraman to jump out and start taping. Is that correct?
Correct.
It was not until a couple of minutes after that, when you realized that this defendant had confessed to a high-publicity murder, that you instructed him to remove the camera.
I instructed him to bring the camera out after the chief mentioned that this person may have been the one that killed the actress.
I have nothing further.
Again, have you and I collaborated as Ms. Clark has
Questioned you?
No, I've spoken to you twice in 2 years. Once when the subpoena was served, and the other time was at the preliminary hearing.
And in fact, prior to the preliminary hearing, and refresh my recollection, had we ever spoken before?
No. May I add, the only reason that our tape at KOLD was of value to you was because I was the only reporter on the scene.
And in fact,
if other reporters were on the scene, I wouldn't be here.
In fact, the tape had some significance as far as the hearing or proposed hearing that was attempted challenging what we consider to be the illegal extradition and kidnapping of Robert Bardo, correct?
That is correct. And the
word kidnapping.
Thank you, Ron.
That was the relevance of that tape, correct?
Correct.
Were you making it or unavailable to the police or the prosecution?
No, they had full access to it.
You never made an attempt to hide the existence of this tape at all, did
As a
you?
matter of fact, it was fed out to more than 100 stations.
I haven't even entertained for a microsecond the thought that you collaborated with the witness to achieve any particular result.
I understand that, Your Honor, but the inference has been raised by Ms. Clark, and I feel it's only fair both to Mr. Wiederham and myself to to relate on the evidence.
I didn't take it as that. It may be susceptible to that interpretation, but I thought her cross-examination went only to bias, and I took it in that light. So
That's correct, and that's how it was offered, and I had no intention of impugning Mr. Galindo in any respect.
And in answering your question, within the framework of your question, I've never testified in any felony matter in 10 years of reporting.
The question was asked by Ms. Clark if you knew of any other reporter scheduled to testify, and you were going to answer.
I don't know of any.
You had a further response. You were prevented from.
The response, as I just indicated, was the only reason that I believe the only reason I'm here is because I was the only one at the parking lot.
Thank you.
any further?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, one question. Mr. Weider, do you not recall my asking you at the preliminary hearing in the hallway whether you had a tape and you denied it at that time, sir?
I do not recall that conversation.
Yeah, I have nothing further.
All right. Anything further?
Well, yes, on that one issue, you've already stated that the existence of that tape was common knowledge, was it not?
More than 100 stations have that tape.
And what was the viewership, if you know?
Probably in excess of 50 million.
Thank you.
At the time of the preliminary hearing, it is your testimony that it was accessible to the Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney's
It's the
Office?
same tape, Ms. Clark.
Sir, can you answer my question? At the time of the...
Of course, yes. Anyone could have it.
Why,
That
well,
case-
just a moment, folks. Court trial, I have to understand what the question was and exactly what he said yes to, so let's start again.
Not only did LAPD have access to it,
There is no question.
That tape, sir, includes footage of the preliminary hearing pretrial motions, does it not?
yes,
And you were present during those pretrial motions,
correct.
and you had a tape at that time in your possession,
Pool camera tape.
a pool camera tape. The one that we have just shown here contains footage from the day you were in court when I was in court.
Correct.
And you are trying to indicate to me that that very tape was available to me at the time of the preliminary hearing when you were present in court?
There's two stories. The first story was our initial story. The second story was a story that I filed in Los Angeles that day when I interviewed you that day.
Mr. Weeder, at the point in time when you discovered you would be requested to carry a tape to Los Angeles, did you contact the Deputy District Attorney's Office to let them know that you were offering this tape into evidence?
No, I did not.
I have nothing further.
Did Los Angeles Police Department have access to that tape?
Yes, they did. As a matter of fact, we worked with LAPD on this story.
Did you ever take any action whatsoever to hide the fact of the existence of this tape?
No.
In fact, at the preliminary hearing, when I sought to introduce the tape into evidence, was not Ms. Clark present?
Yes.
Nothing further.
And it was prior to Mr. Galindo's attempt to present that tape in court that I asked you if you had the tape. Is that correct?
All this banter back and forth about the tape is irrelevant to me at this point.
Except as it tends to show bias, Your Honor. To the extent that this witness is indicating that we had access to it or that we were aware of its existence, it is false, I can assure the court. Secondly, if he indicates that...
Testifying at this point, Your Honor.
Yeah,
I could swear a witness.
The statement by the prosecutor will be stricken. All right. Anything further, folks?
Nothing further.
All right. May this witness be excused?
No objection.
All right, you may be excused, sir.
I would seek to mark the tape as Defense Exhibit B at this time.
All right, it will be so marked. You might as well offer it in evidence as long as we've already seen it. No?
I didn't want to do that at this time because I have an issue to...
Oh, I see.
take that in that regard.
All right.
May we approach this for
Yes.
scheduling matter?
Yes.
Okay, now we are going to go to the Brian Walsh trial. See you over there.